Doug, still, the topic number one in all media is the situation in Iran. And of course, this is what,
yeah.
of course. And of course, this is what we want to cover. However, a lot is being said. There's also a lot of noise, a lot of fake news, like lots of fake videos online. What we predominantly do is, of course, following the news related to refugees and people on the move. So we want to focus today on that and talk about the displacement within Iran and outside, what is happening to Iranians who are forced to live outside the country for years, decades, or maybe those for whom this displacement is fresh. But to make sure that we talk about it thoroughly, let's just remind everybody where we are right now, because the situation may change very much when we post this podcast in a few days.
Yeah, so this is the 13th, I think, or the 12th, right? It's like 2 weeks of war in Iran with the attack from U.S. and Israel. And now 12 countries in the region have been struck by bombs or drones. The Straits of Hormuz are closed. There is no oil and gas coming out. Qatar is shut off.
Despite President Trump encouraging oil tankers to go there and just cross it, there are news again that some of them were bombed.
It's kind of, obviously the loss of life is the most important thing, but the destabilization across the globe right now because of energy is insane. When you think about 35% of the world's oil coming out of this area, specifically from the Gulf. And Iran is basically saying we will not allow it to open. And in response to all of the strikes that Iran has flared at to everybody, all these other energy sectors are shut down, and they'll take months to turn back on. We could talk more about the specifics of that, but like on the ground,
that's a topic its own.
But
right?
It is really difficult to get information out of Iran. Obviously, this is all coming from individuals who find access to some sort of internet.
There's one CNN journalist who was allowed in, and he was actually reporting when some of the oil plantations, factories, were bombed, how like this black rain was falling.
Yeah, and this was everywhere. It's pretty nuts. But like if you go on to Vahid Online or Iran Wire, the majority of the information that's coming out of here is coming their dissident websites, essentially, as well as journalistic sources of information. But a lot of the information is coming from inside the country, and then they're putting this content out to the diaspora. And I mean, you spend a day in there. I really encourage everybody who watches our show to just spend a day on these two sites, and you'll get a much different understanding of what's going on compared to what you see from mainstream media. It's pretty brutal what's going on, and like some of the interviews they've done with doctors who need to remain anonymous about what they've witnessed in January on the 8th and the 9th alone. The things that a lot of Iranian activists and lawyers are saying, the quotes are like overwhelmingly intense. And obviously the numbers are radically different from what the Iranian state will report on the number of people. They've admitted that they've killed 3,000 protesters. The number is potentially 10 times higher depending upon the sources that you're looking at. There's somewhere in between that range of, that's insane to think that we're talking between 3 and 30,000 people dead. And then, this is at a time when it was already hyperinflation of 40% to where nobody could really afford life, and the average salary in the country was, I don't know, like the average regular worker was making, minimum wage, was like $250 a month. And the only place on the planet I know that is worse off than that scenario was Venezuela, where they have this weird payments system and they're getting paid like nothing a month. But in Iran, it was like crazy to see the inflation, insane to think about what the people were actually on the street protesting in the first place. It had nothing really to do, this isn't women life freedom. This isn't really, this was really about like our lives are terrible because we can't afford anything and you're not doing anything to solve that. So that's the real motivation, it feels like, to take to the streets to protest. And then the response, but the violence was just overwhelming. And some of these quotes are pretty insane. But an argument that was made by Nasrin Sotoudeh, was like an Iranian activist and a lawyer first and an activist after, human rights lawyer. she really argued for, humanitarian intervention, saying that there should have been humanitarian intervention, coalition of intervention in advance of what we are now dealing with. And had that happened, perhaps we wouldn't be dealing with this completely internationally illegal unilateral action. I mean, granted, it's bilateral, that is two countries doing it together, but this breaks all of the international norms of what can or cannot happen in a theater of war.
I understand the argument, and it would be really amazing if it can be done in a peaceful way, that the humanitarian intervention gets in. But as sad as I am to say it, I don't think this humanitarian intervention would be allowed in by
it was blocked by Russia and China.
Yes, of course, and Iran wouldn't allow. It would lead to the same situation, or just would show the impossibility of the international system to really implement certain laws and regulations. I don't think it would work. That's all I'm saying.
I don't want to be like deeply cynical here, but I don't really feel that America and Europe really care at all about Iranian lives. They don't really care about this at all, and it doesn't matter what they're going to say to the cameras or what they're going to put out there in the media. If they did, they would have done something a long time ago, and it wouldn't have led to the point where people are singing Trump's praises in the streets because he bombed them, and that we're talking to people in our community and they're saying their family members are worried that what happens if the bombs stop. They're not worried about the bombs. They're worried about the bombs stopping, because then that means that they're on their own, and they're more terrified to go to the store because of armed militias than they are about more military strikes in civilian areas, at least. And it's still unbelievable how many civilian areas are being hit for 2 weeks now.
Yeah, and we gathered so many different opinions on this attack and what may come later. And those opinions are very different, sometimes contradictory, right? And we are not here to argue for any of the sides. Each of us has our own opinion on this situation. But what is undeniable is the fact that around 3.2 million Iranians right now are internally displaced within Iran. They predominantly left big cities, went to rural areas to the north. Those 3.2 million, that is around 600,000 to 1 million households. So many people had to really leave their place, flee somewhere. And we know that it's not really safe anywhere at the moment. But this is the situation on the ground. And
then what's the chance of those 3.2 million Iranians actually being able to use their visa-free pathway to Turkey, which is not going to happen? And if they're going to try to get through a wall of concrete and militarization, I think that people who are against this regime for a long period of time right now are going to be internally displaced. This is going to stretch out for a long time.
Yes,
with the Ayatollah's son being installed now, it's not going to change anything about the core structure of the government and the society. And it doesn't matter that they are that they have a minority of support in the country. We have many historical examples of minorities dominating majorities for decades, and we've already had it here. And it could stretch out for a much longer period of time. And I don't know what the real end game is here for America and Israel.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is here for European countries is this fear that this will turn into the Syrian conflict back in like 2015-16, when we had big number of Syrians crossing to the European Union. And the officials claim that they are much better prepared right now. Okay, we have the new EU pact on migration.
They're much better prepared with all their ignorance of international law.
This is something we'll be talking about in our next episode, so stay tuned.
Better prepared.
However, like certain Iran is a bigger country than Syria, so you can imagine that if this really goes south, and suddenly, people will start crossing, this may really change for Europe. At this moment, as you mentioned, Iranians have a visa-free regime to Turkey for a short stays. However, Turkey decided to stop this unlimited influx of Iranians, and they started organizing some checks at the borders and blocking some of the people from getting into the country. On top of that, there is a pretty big wall on the border between Turkey and Iran, right, which stops irregular migration into Turkey. So this is a bit problematic.
However, it looks a lot different than it did when I was there last, and it was a pretty wide open, like you could just kind of walk across the border, and now it is fully militarized.
Yes, we are going to go back.
It seems like they're more worried about non-Iranians getting through this process. They're worried about the millions of Afghans that are there that would now utilize this as an opportunity to get out, because they are also in deep danger. And all the ethnic minorities in the country, which are persecuted by the regime, you got 40% of the country is not the majority ethnicity. Like, so there's a lot of smaller groups that are really in danger.
Yeah. And I think this is worth highlighting, that we have around 1.6 million Afghan refugees in Iran.
That's just what's on paper.
That's what exactly. So
double that number.
This is something that the European Union is also aware of, right? And they are thinking what's going to happen if the crisis continues, if there are more attacks, and it doesn't seem like US is coordinating it much with or informing the European partner much about what is happening. Exactly. So we said that EU is potentially is observing and is potentially fearing the consequences of what may happen there, and several European Union countries already took some action steps to when the situation worsened, and almost all of European Union countries are discussing right now what to do with applications for asylum cases of Iranians. And basically three countries took some really decisive actions, and those are Finland, Belgium, and the Netherlands, that for sure. And they sort of suspended asylum procedures for Iranian. And this is, for Finland, it's a partial suspension, and they did this to predominantly assess the situation in Iran, and just like Netherlands, stop deportations to Iran. So even if somebody is as Iranian rejected from the asylum procedure and went through the appeal and still is rejected and is supposed to be returned to Iran, at this moment this procedure is stopped because the situation in the country of origin is unstable. They are unable to say if it's safe to send the person back.
Well, it's clearly not safe, right?
Exactly. It is clearly not safe. They claim that it is impossible to assess the situation at the moment.
It is not impossible to assess the situation in Iran right now. It is yes, okay, fine. The information is really difficult to get, but it's obvious what's going on. It's open warfare. So I feel like all Iranians should be given the same level of respect and protections that Ukrainians received immediately upon Russia's invasion. You have an active scale war unfolding in their country, and all of them that want to leave to get to safety should have the right to do that. And international law should be adhered to. But we're in a new world here where international law means nothing. It's gone.
It is.
It's been gone maybe for a long time, slowly but surely, but now it's just like blatantly, it's completely like thrown out the window.
And let's maybe say that so far, this fear of so many Iranians crossing to the EU, it has no basis, right? Because there was a number of Iranians who fled the country. They went predominantly to the neighboring countries. So, of course, some of them to Turkey, but also to Armenia and Azerbaijan. Some of them also to the Gulf countries. But this number was really not big at all. So at this moment, there's not a real threat to any of the EU countries. We know that they are thinking what to do, observing the situation. Greece, which is very close to us, is also started checking the documents of Iranians more thoroughly, as they're saying, for their asylum claim. They also, of course, are afraid of potential threat, or some of the people who are crossing are not like having legit cases or being a legit threat to the government. But they also secured the border in Evros, which means the northern border with Turkey, where refugees and asylum seekers are crossing. So we'll see where this is gonna go. And to be fair, EU countries are allowed to suspend or pause asylum claims. They are.
Our next episode, right? Because
Yes.
there's only one reason why they're allowed to do that.
No, there
and it's
is, like-
because they are ignoring international law, but they're in a
No,
pact.
they are allowed to pause. They are not allowed to completely stop it. They are allowed to pause it if the conditions in the country of origin are unclear, or if the situation is unstable,
But
or if
that's-
they would break the non-refoulement principle, right? So returning the person to the country of origin. So there is a mechanism to predominantly protect refugees as well, right? We know that what Greece did back last summer to completely stop
so everyone from
receiving
Sudan.
claims. What Poland was doing to basically decided that they will not be taking any asylum claims from the Belarusian border, right? Of course, that's a breach of international and European law.
If you run from war and you're not from Europe or America, you're a criminal. And if you run from war from Europe or America, you're a refugee with unlimited protection, practically unlimited protection, automatic TPS, which can be renewed, and will be always. This is bullshit.
Passport is power.
It's bullshit. And I argue that the only reason why they have the mechanism in place to do this is because of the migration pact they put into action on 2024, which is about to be, fully, each country is supposed to put it into action by the summer, right? And we'll talk about that in the next episode in
Absolutely.
depth. But I don't know. This is you probably don't want to get me started on the illegality of the actions of U.S. and Israel. I understand why there are people on the ground and there are Iranians around the world who are thankful that something happened and that the Ayatollah was killed. But this is unprecedented. This is
It is.
targeted assassination of a sitting world leader, a spiritual leader for millions of people. It's going to have ripple effects across the globe for years to come. And it just really utterly destabilizes absolutely everything. And it really it feels like he's taking advantage of his limited majority of political power, where right now he has no need to talk to Congress because Congress will rubber stamp anything he wants, even against their own interests and even against their own power. And he's about to lose that power. He's about to lose the ability to just do whatever he wants because Congress suddenly, potentially, hopefully, will no longer be in lockstep with him, and then there will be some limits to what he can do. So he's seizing this little window of time he has before the next election cycle to just do everything he wants. So don't be surprised if suddenly he invades Cuba too, or actually does take Greenland. This is insanity, and our system has been created to protect all of us from the actions and the interests of basically one man or a small group of people. Our system has been gamed in a way that is really, really shocking. And with that said, I understand why some people are cheering for what was done. But I don't want to see all these other innocent people. And now we got a lot of people dying all over the place, and many more will follow. And I really don't believe that he has the interests of Iranians at heart. And I don't believe that when push comes to shove, they'll stick around long enough to protect them. And I really feel like they're really going to be exposed in a deeper way. And this was kind of like a really, really ugly thing to do.
Yeah. And going back to the situation of some of the Iranians in Turkey, they are part of this political game. And we will talk to our guest in a second about a very particular case. But at this moment, Turkey hosts a pretty big number of refugees. Right now, it's more than 3 million Syrians who are still in Turkey. And on top of this, some non-Syrians, 200,000 plus other refugees. And Iranians are not maybe a really big number, but they are significant politically. And the last data that I have, it's from 2023, so sorry, a bit old, but it's 1.4 thousand Iranians applied that year for international protection, and this is more 1.4 thousand. So it's like that applied, right? That's year.
Thousands or million?
1,000.
Okay, so 1,400 people?
Yeah. Okay. Of course. No, we don't have that many Iranian refugees.
I'm just saying,
abroad.
Yeah,
no, it's like the new people who applied, right, on top of those who are there. And here the issue is interesting because, of course, there is or was a visa-free regime between Turkey and Iran. So people could just come to cross to Turkey and stay, right? And apparently there were quite many undocumented Iranians, I mean, people whose visa already expired. This visa-free regime allows for short travels, and then they decided to stay. And some of them just crossed legally within this regime, and then suddenly became part of this, a strange game. Turkey and Iran have some strong, maybe interesting, but still strong diplomatic ties. And sometimes Turkey is playing with the Iranian dissidents, not only refugees, but also dissidents, who are fearing for their lives sometimes in Turkey. One of the things is that Turkey really doesn't like really activist movements, and they do not even want to have activists who are advocating for Iranian causes. That's one thing. And the other thing is, the freedom of press also is pretty minimal in Turkey right now. So the journalists who cross from Iran are also not very welcomed in Turkey.
Well, it's been... I can't remember the last time it was a welcome place for journalism. We have too many friends in prison there.
Yeah. Having that said, let's connect to our guest, Laleh Taheri, who will talk to us about her brother. Laleh, thank you very much for joining us today to talk about your brother, Kaveh.
Sure, thanks for having me.
We would first of all like you to tell us and the audience, who is your brother? What is he doing? What is his job? Because this is very crucial for his current situation.
Sure. My brother, Kaveh Taheri, he's a political activist, journalist, and human rights advocate who's been publishing several articles, numerous articles on human rights, political prisoners, situation in Iran, women's rights. And he was, because of his activities, he was arrested in 2012 in Iran. And he was charged with vague, charges, a threat against national security, and those things that we all know. And he spent around 1 year in prison. And basically, the Islamic regime in Iran didn't even allow him to appear in the court to defend himself. And fortunately, he had a lawyer, and the lawyer attended on his behalf. And then basically, he was released on bail in 2013. And he fled to Turkey because he couldn't continue his professional activities in Iran, and also his life and his freedom was in danger because of his activities.
So, Laleh, you mentioned that your brother crossed to Turkey, fearing for his safety in Iran. And what happened specifically to him in Turkey, and what was his life like in Turkey?
So he was a asylum seeker. So he introduced himself to UNHCR. and that was in 2013. So as soon as he arrived to Turkey, he introduced himself as an asylum seeker to UNHCR, and in 2015, UNHCR recognized him as a refugee who needs international protection. And ever since, he's been waiting for resettling in a safe country
Since
so that he can start his.
2015, let me be clear. Since 2015, he's been waiting.
Yes,
11
exactly.
years, basically. Okay.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Yeah, and basically, UNHCR was not able to assist with the resettlement. And my brother contacted the French consulate in Istanbul in late 2025 and showed basically his case, all the documents that he had. And the French consulate agreed to have an interview with him to probably give him asylum visa. But while he was on his way to Istanbul on January 26th, the Turkish authorities stopped him. They arrested him, and they sent him to a deportation camp near Istanbul. The name of the camp is, I think, Kocaeli, if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. And basically, after 2 days, they gave him vague charges like threat against public order and public health, something like that. And it's basically, it sounds very racist to me. What does that even mean? And basically, they don't have any charges or any evidence against him. And this also has happened in 2021, I think, that they charged him based on a more serious charge, threat against national security in Turkey. And but my brother, with the help of his lawyer, he won the court, and basically not only the primary court but also the secondary and I think the Supreme Court. They won because my brother has done nothing wrong, and basically the court voted for him that he should be recognized and keep the recognition as a refugee, and he needs international protection. But again, um, the Turkish authorities, they are putting him in the deportation camp, while my brother himself, he wants to leave Turkey. He has no interest in staying in Turkey, and he was on his way to go to a visa interview for leaving Turkey and to go to a third country to start living in a safe place, where he has the basic human rights as a uh, as let's say as a citizen of the next country, because in Turkey, like as refugees, you don't have the full rights of a human being. I've been there. I was a refugee once. I came to the US myself as a refugee, and when I was waiting for this whole process in Malaysia, as a refugee, I didn't have a work permit. I wasn't allowed to work. So these are all discriminations against human beings, and basically violating the basic human rights.
I was going to ask, for that 10 years after he was provided protections in Turkey, what was he actually allowed to do with that status? Like what was he able to do for a decade inside the country? I understand why he would want to leave, but generally speaking, what was life like for him for a decade there?
So basically, there is not much that they can do. He continued his activities as a journalist. Online, he was publishing articles in different media outlets. But that's basically all he could do. Living a bare minimum, a life, and basically nothing more.
So, Laleh, we're talking about your brother because you're advocating for his case very actively, but he's not the only Iranian who was in Turkey and was treated as a criminal. Can you tell us a little bit more about some cases you know about?
Sure. I know several Iranians are in the same situation, and one of them is my brother's friend who was arrested separately in Istanbul. And like after a few days, he decided to leave Turkey for Azerbaijan. And in Azerbaijan, he also he only has a 1 month visa. So I don't know, I mean, what you can do with that short period of time, you know. And for my brother, he doesn't have that option either because his passport is expiring very soon, so he cannot leave Turkey unless he has a humanitarian visa, so that he can leave the country. And now the Turkish authorities, they are blocking his path from a legal uh, leaving the country.
What is the benefit to the Turkish state to do this? I mean, why
What
would
is
they
their
go out of
why
their
exactly?
why would they go out of their way to do this? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure. On one side, I think the Turkish government, which has basically um, uh, uh, is close to the Islamic regime in Iran. They always had good relationships. So recently, they have cracked down a lot of refugees, specifically the Iranian opponents who are active against the authoritarian regime in Iran. That's one reason that I can think of. The other thing is that um, basically because of the large number of refugees in Turkey, they want to control the situation by putting more pressure on refugees so that no more people try to come, considering the war that has happened in Iran and also from other countries. I know that there are people, refugees from all over the world, like from Iraq, from Afghanistan, in the same camp that my brother is being kept. And the situation there is very dire. Like the quality and quantity of the food is very poor. They don't have access to, let's say, exercise instruments. They cannot even build, using water bottles. They cannot use those as, instruments to lift or do some exercise to keep themselves busy, let's say, while they are. And they are not, they are mostly inside the wards, and they have only 45 minutes to 1 hour per day to go out. And that's another thing. There is a library in the ward and in the camp, but they are not allowed to go there freely and use it freely. So the guards should come and take them to the library, but that hasn't happened for my brother yet. And although there is a therapist in the camp, that my brother was able to request her to bring a couple of books for him. So that's basically the situation that's, that is going on in the camp. And there was another thing that is worrisome, because I've heard some of those people inside the camp, they are accused of collaborating with ISIS or other, extremist groups, and that poses risks to the rest of the people there, specifically the political activists, the people who might not be or might not have the same beliefs as those extremist groups, right? And also, I know like I've heard about an Iraqi family. There was a father with two children, two daughters, one 6-year old, one 8-year old, who've been, the girls were being held in the men's ward, which could pose a risk to them, like those little girls are being kept with so many men, and because the mother was not with them. So that was also, another thing that is really worrying. And I just know that that family were deported to Iraq, so they are no longer there. But that's basically the way they treat the refugees in the camp.
That's absolutely
Yeah.
terrifying. Absolutely. Laleh, we wish you and your brother a lot of strength in your fight, both of you. I know it's not easy for neither of you right now. We'll be monitoring the case. I know you're in touch with Amnesty International, so fingers crossed they will also pick up the case, and it's gonna be in the news, and a larger community will be fighting for your brother.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on this show. And I really hope that the world comes to a place that we treat each other as human being, with a little bit more respect, because all of us deserve to live, to have the chance to have a normal life. There are very intelligent people among all these refugees. Like I told, like, I mean, one example is me, who was not allowed to work in Malaysia as a refugee. But as soon as I came to the US, where I had the right to work, I was able to find a job in less than 7 days of my arrival, and not a general job. I found a job in my field, which is IT. And now I am a project manager. So basically, we can contribute to the societies that we are going, but only if all the politicians and all these, administrative processes allow us to go to a place that is safe for us, that we can speak our minds and we can contribute to the human society. And I really hope that we get to a better place as the whole human society.
We absolutely agree with you. We keep repeating that there is this gigantic human potential within the refugee community, and people come with amazing skills, but also people come with this will to learn, to grow, to study, to learn new skills, right? And so many
Definitely.
of like European countries have deficit on their job market, and here we have refugees coming and so frequently not being given a chance to really use those skills, right? um,
Absolutely.
it's there, like the puzzles
Right.
can come together, but as you said, the political will is necessary to do this.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we would
Totally.
really love to be able to help platform more of your brother's work. So please share with us the journalistic projects that he's done to make sure that more people are reading what he's produced, and the cause that he's been fighting for all this time, both in Iran and in Turkey. And he's right now paying this like really large price for that effort, and so we really need to make sure that more people are seeing what he invested his time and his passion into.
Sure, definitely. I will share with you his work.
Thank you very much, Laleh. to
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
We've been talking to Laleh Taheri, who's the sister of Kaveh Taheri, who is currently detained in Turkey and who is a journalist, human rights defender, an activist, a person who should be rewarded for his work, not detained. So please
And not deported back to Iran.
And definitely not deported back to Iran, where his life is in danger. So please follow his case. Thank you very much, and we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with another episode.